Okay, we're about to dive into an industry that is literally in a race against the clock. It's this incredible mix of emergency response and hardcore building science, where the real enemy, well, it's the water you can't even see. Let's get right into it. Just imagine that for a second. That sound, it is a homeowner's absolute worst nightmare. A pipe lets go, a water heater fails, and all of a sudden your safe space, your home, is literally flooding. You know, what happens in the next few hours, that's going to decide if this is just a big problem or a total catastrophic loss. So what we're going to do is pull back the curtain on this whole process. We're going to use a restoration service in Bardstown, Kentucky as our case study to really see how it all works, from that frantic emergency call all the way to the final walkthrough. Now, you might think a burst pipe is a burst pipe, no matter where you are. But the truth is, the risk and the response can be totally different depending on your location. And to understand why, we're zeroing in on Bardstown, Kentucky, a place that has its own very specific set of challenges when it comes to water. You're looking at what is basically a perfect storm of risk factors here. Bardstown's soil is heavy with clay, so it just holds onto water, pushing against foundations. A lot of its beautiful homes are historic, which means older plumbing and porous limestone. Then you throw in Kentucky's wild freeze-thaw cycles that just love to burst pipes. And the final kicker, that thick summer humidity, which is like rolling out the welcome mat for mold. And this is that ticking clock I was talking about. From the moment water gets in, you've got about a 48-hour window. After that, you're not just fighting water damage anymore. You're fighting a biological invasion. The mold starts to take over. Okay, so the worst has happened. The water is everywhere, that clock is ticking loud. What does the professional response actually look like in those first absolutely critical hours? Just look at how fast this all has to happen. Hour 0, the pipe bursts. Within an hour, the call has been made. Just 1 hour after that, pros are on site figuring out the scope of the problem. And by hour 4, 4 hours, the water is already being pulled out. This speed, it's not just impressive, it's absolutely essential to stop the damage from getting way worse. And that 2-hour arrival time, that's not a maybe, it's the standard. In an industry where every single minute counts, getting there in under 2 hours is what keeps water from creeping out of the carpet and into the subfloor, the walls, the bones of the house. So once the team is on site, they don't just start sloshing around with mops. No, they become investigators. Because before you can fix the problem, you have to understand exactly what you're up against. And it turns out not all water is created equal. Right away, pros classify the water into one of these 3 categories. Category 1, that's clean water, say from a burst water pipe. Category 2 is gray water. Think a dishwasher overflow. It's got some gunk in it. But Category 3, black water, that's the serious stuff, like a sewage backup. It's a major biohazard. And which category it is completely changes the game. What gear they wear, what they can save, and what has to be thrown out immediately. And you know, none of this is guesswork. The entire process follows a really strict science-based rulebook, the IICRC S500 standard. This is the industry's official playbook, and it ensures the job gets done right, safely, and effectively. And here's the really important part for homeowners. It's the standard your insurance company is looking for when they review your claim. To follow that playbook, they bring out some seriously cool tech. Thermal cameras literally let them see water hiding inside the walls. Moisture meters give them an exact reading of how saturated the drywall or wood is. And thermohygrometers measure the humidity in the air, which is a key piece of data for the next phase. Because once that standing water is gone, the real fight begins. Now you have to win the war against the hidden moisture that's trapped deep inside the structure of the house. The drying process is a real 1, 2, 3 punch. First, those powerful truck-mounted pumps get rid of all the standing water. Then they bring in an army of commercial air movers to create a whirlwind of airflow, which helps water evaporate from surfaces. And finally, massive industrial dehumidifiers get to work, pulling all of that moisture right out of the air and, crucially, out of the building materials themselves. And this is why you have to be patient. Different materials let go of water at totally different rates. Your drywall might be dry in 3 days, but hardwood floors, that could take a week. And concrete? We're talking 2 weeks or more. If you rush this and pull the equipment too soon, you are almost guaranteeing a future mold problem. This quote just nails it, right? The puddle on the floor is the problem you can see, but it's the hidden moisture, the stuff trapped in your walls and floors, that's the real enemy. That's the stuff that causes mold, rot, and can even compromise the structure of your home.
All right, so the house is finally dry. The equipment is gone. But the journey isn't quite over. Now you have to step into the complicated world of insurance claims and actually putting your home back together.
So here's the million-dollar question for every homeowner. Is it covered? And the general rule of thumb is this: insurance usually covers sudden and accidental damage. Think a pipe that just explodes. What it often doesn't cover are those slow, gradual problems from a lack of maintenance, like a tiny drip under the sink you ignored for months. It's a really important distinction, and it's why having that professional documentation from day one is so important. Honestly, when you're going through something this stressful, the last thing you want is to be juggling a dozen different contractors for the water, the drying, the drywall, the painting. The whole point of a full-service restoration company is to be that single point of contact who handles everything, from that first crazy phone call to the moment you walk back into your finished home. This chart gives you a fantastic snapshot of the whole project. Look at this. The initial emergency response is only about a quarter of the job. The biggest piece of the pie, 40%, is that highly technical drying and dehumidifying phase. And even after all that, there's still over a third of the project left, which is all the reconstruction and repairs. So what does this all add up to? Well, for a typical project in a place like Bardstown, the entire timeline, from that heart-stopping 2 a.m. call to walking through your home that looks just like it did before, is usually about 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, the professionals can work miracles with incredible speed and science, but their work is always a reaction to a disaster that's already happened. And that leaves us with one last really important question. What can you do to keep from ever making that 2 a.m. call in the first place? It's the simple things, checking the hoses on your washing machine, insulating pipes before a freeze, and just knowing where your main water shutoff valve is. That stuff can make all the difference.